Alex Haley says either you deal with what reality is, or you can be sure that reality is going to deal with you. So, what is reality, anyways? Well, it's what is right in front of you: the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is similar to last week's habit of enjoying the moment. It's the principles that we can see more clearly what's going on in our life if we face what is right in front of us, not something from the past or the future. When I was depressed for many, many years, I was not facing reality in a few ways. First of all, there was some history in my family of anxiety and depression, and I didn't want to see that. I saw it in some of my family members, but I thought, well, certainly that's not me. I just didn't face the reality that it could be in me too. Then after many years, 18, I went to see a doctor. And the doctor said, well, it's a chemical imbalance and we'll give you some medication. And I tried 5 different medications, and the reality was they did not work for me. They just didn't work for me. And so I also want to just add this caveat that I'm not saying it doesn't work for other people, but they did not work for me. And I actually was forced, after probably 14 months of different trials. Yeah, 14 months. I was forced to acknowledge reality. This is not a solution. Even though the doctor was telling me that's a solution, it wasn't the solution. I also didn't face reality in this way. I had some of my own unhealthy mental health practices. I was constantly thinking negatively about myself and the world and others. That's just a bad mental health habit. I also let my emotions manage me. I would just follow my emotions and believe that they were telling the truth so I was just chasing my emotions and letting that direct my actions. And I wasn't facing the reality that emotions are just emotions. They're up and down and good and bad and here and there. And they are something that can be managed. I didn't know that either, but I didn't acknowledge that my emotions were having such a negative impact on myself and others. I personalized. I still could do this less and less. I personalized what was going on around me. If someone gave me a funny look or said something that I considered rude or didn't do what I thought they should do, I personalized that. I thought they were doing it to annoy me. But that was a bad mental health practice. People don't do things because of you. They do things because of them. I didn't acknowledge that reality. And finally, I blamed other people for my unhappiness when I was depressed. It was his fault or her fault or their fault. I didn't acknowledge that was my fault and my problem. So reality. There are some things that are true about reality. It marches on with time. So the past is no longer here, and the future is not here yet. Reality is simply what's in front of us. It is tied to time. Reality can show us that relationships are just changing. And we had something happen recently where a relationship changed. We weren't sure what happened. It was very painful. Weren't able to get clarity on what it was. But the reality was it changed. It just changed dramatically. And even though that was sad and painful, it is. So reality can be sad, like that case. Reality can also be awesome. When we were in the middle of talking about how difficult this thing that had happened was, all of a sudden we realized, wait a minute, just look around for a second. We have so many good things in our lives. There are so many amazing things have happened, and we didn't need to let the one thing cloud all of our reality, because there are many good things that were happening. So reality, in the case where it's sad or difficult, or even if it's joyful, reality is quite kind. It's telling you what is. It's like it's telling you the truth. And it can be showing you the way forward. It can be showing you, okay, this relationship has changed. Now you know that. Maybe it had happened before and you just didn't see it, or were unable to face the reality that it had changed even earlier. There's a woman that I follow by the name of Byron Katie. She goes by Katie, even though that's her last name. And she has a thing called The Work. Now, Byron Katie was severely depressed and anxious and suicidal and drug addicted and just all kinds of bad stuff. And one day she woke up and she realized, it's reality. I'm not dealing with reality. And if I do deal with reality, then nothing can make me struggle. So it's very fascinating. I've watched hours and hours and hours of her videos. I have read a couple of her books, and I highly recommend her. She has a thing called The Work. It's called The Work. You can Google that. And you can find a worksheet and some other things to help you, because you just need to ask yourself 4 simple questions about reality. And she has dealt with Holocaust survivors and rape victims and just all kinds of people that have been through terrible, terrible, terrible situations. Really difficult relationship things, just all kinds of terrible things. And she really helps people face the reality by asking these 4 questions. I'm going to tell them to you, but I'm also going to say it's more complicated than this. You really need to do it for yourself, and I guarantee it will be helpful if there's anything within your reality that's causing you to struggle. Here are the 4 questions. Think of whatever it is that's bothering you. And then ask yourself the first question, is it true? It's just a yes or no question. The second question is, can you absolutely know it's true? She just tells you to sit there with it, and answer the question. And there's no right or wrong answer. The third question is fascinating. How do you react when you believe that thought? How do you react when you believe that thought? And the fourth question is, who would you be, or how would you react without that thought? I just can't even recommend this enough. It's very, very fascinating how you can get in touch with reality. And maybe your version of reality is completely incorrect. And that's where she helps you go with that. So I really recommend that. So I was stuck in depression because I refused to see reality right in front of me. So after I got out of depression and healed from it after 35 years, I wrote a book called So Now What? A Guide for People Who Feel Stuck. And So Now What? A Guided Workbook to Get Unstuck. These books will really help you face reality. Where did that come from? Why are you seeing life through this certain lens? And how to move on. And this, again, was something I had to do for myself because the doctors could not help me, and the counselors could not help me, and the church could not help me, because depression can be a part of all 3 of those disciplines. And so no one of them can be completely helpful. So my book, I really recommend my book. Other ways to begin to start see reality is write out your thoughts, journal, and challenge the reality of what you're saying. Maybe you're thinking things and it's so wonderful to write them out. And when you write out words, they stare at you in black and white. It just stares at you, and you can't change it. Now you're looking at what you actually thought, and you're not messing around with your ego and trying to be right. You're just challenging your own thoughts. You can spend time praying or meditating on what is reality. Really good to get in touch with that. You can breathe. You can just focus on your breath. This again sounds like last week's habit of enjoying the moment. You can get to that place of this moment right now with some of the same techniques. Accepting reality does not mean just reacting to whatever's in front of you. Sometimes accepting reality and embracing it is simply observing and breathing and not reacting. We are a very fast-paced society, and not reacting can be very, very helpful to begin to embrace it. Again, don't project into the future what's going to happen based on what you see right now, or don't drag forward past traumas or past hurts from the past and painting those over the circumstances of today. You don't know that that's what's going to happen. Just embrace what it is today. Realize that your first thought may not be correct. First thought may not be correct, and in fact, we have many thoughts that pop into our head, and we do not need to believe all of them. We do not need to believe all of them. You might even see something and you think, oh, that's the reality. And then as you look at it further, it's like, wow, that thought was completely wrong. That was not the reality. It often helps me when I'm talking to someone who will challenge my version of reality and ask me questions so I can start to see, okay, that's just what I came up with on my own. But having someone help, a coach, a counselor, a spouse, a friend, someone who's honest and knows you and cares about you, will help you deal with what really is reality. And finally, don't try to change things that are outside of your control. The one thing that's so obvious that we just can be so affected by is this silly thing called the weather. So I live in Minnesota, and it's cold and it's dreary in the winter, but it's winter. We also have beautiful snow, and the sunshine on the snow could not be more bright and beautiful. We have all kinds of activities we can do, but here's the thing. The weather's the weather. I can't control the weather. So when I paint my reality like, oh, it's a gray day, and I'm just going to be tired today, the reality is the weather's just the weather. It's not anything else. It's not something I can change or control by complaining or talking about it. It's just the weather. So don't try to change those things that are not under your control. If a situation happens in front of you and you can't control it, just embrace it. We need to feel it, let those feelings come through us, and experience it. So make a habit of embracing reality. I know that in addition to last week enjoying the moment and being on time, and let's see, what are my other habits? Living with purpose, being enthusiastic, embracing change. These are just the beginning of the year on these different habits that will help you have a great life, because good habits lead to a good life. And it's easier to create a good habit than live with the bad ones. So I hope you stay well and that this was hopeful. Be well.